we exchanged multiple emails that say, hey, make us your registered partner, not taking business away from Uber. We are building more business to Uber because we are enabling the driver. Right. They said, no, it's not allowed. I said, wow, now we will do it. For when I landed in US, I was always interested into the entrepreneurship. So always started multiple ideas. I was not part of entrepreneurship. I even didn't know how to write entrepreneurship spelling. I will make mistake right now.
Taking that car ride, which kind of like changed your life in some sense, and you've written a book about that as well, a $40 Uber ride that transformed into a company that you eventually then took public.
Sounds interesting problem. Why don't you become an Uber driver? Initially, we thought the driver will be the problem, like acquiring driver. But we were surprised in the next couple of days, a lot of people signed up, around 200, 300 people signed up. So ideas are everywhere. It's all about execution. In Hyrecar, we hired people, everybody rejected us, right? Everybody rejected. Some of my friends, they laughed at my face. It's still, not now, but yeah, back then, at least 100, 200 people became multi-millionaire from Hyrecar.
Fundamentally, a lot of companies fail, not because you run out of ideas or money, you run out of mental energy.
Startup is an emotional journey. You are a founder, so you can relate to it, right? One day it's up, second hour it's down, right? Morning it's up,
yes.
Afternoon it's we are done, right?
Yes.
No hope, right?
How do you go from a company that was almost shutting down to then taking the company public?
Well, my guest turned a $40 Uber ride into a $480 million company. Welcome back to the Desi VC podcast. I'm your host, Akash Bhat, and this is a show where I sit down with leading investors and founders and uncover golden nuggets about investing and company building between the India-US corridor. Well, today's guest, I'm extremely confident, will leave you all inspired and itching to start a company. Joining me today is Anshu Bansal. He's a serial entrepreneur and a venture capitalist. Well, this is a fascinating interview because Anshu's journey began with a late-night Uber ride in 2014 to co-founding Hyrecar, a company valued at $480 million. His story is a true testament to the unpredictable path of entrepreneurship. This former programmer for H&R Block and Amazon Prime Music, now leading Cloud Defense AI, and is also involved as a venture investor with Arcadia Venture Partners, discovered his first big idea during a conversation with his Uber driver about the challenges of making money in the rideshare industry. He, along with his co-founder Abhi Arora, embarked on a mission to create a fair marketplace for rideshare drivers and car owners, learning from past entrepreneurial endeavors to avoid premature coding and instead focus on validating their idea first. Today, we'll go over the strategy that they deployed, which included undercover research at Uber driver hubs, which nearly got them caught and fired, and a successful pitch to car owners, leading to the acquisition of the first 100 cars with a promise of $300 for every driver that they found. They then made an MVP with a simple spreadsheet and earned $9,000 in the first month of business. But for them, they quickly encountered scalability issues and competition from Uber, prompting a pivot towards a broader market that included all vehicle owners interested in renting out their cars for ride sharing. Quite similar to Airbnb's business model. So his journey wasn't smooth, with significant hurdles such as securing the right insurance for their business model to battling Uber at almost every stage, and at one point nearly going bankrupt. Anshu turned his challenges into a successful IPO, gaining a valuation of $480 million by 2021. His story, from brainstorming in an Uber car ride to a multi-million-dollar company, underscores the unpredictable yet rewarding nature of the startup industry, highlighting the importance of resilience, adaptability, and the relentless pursuit of innovation. I'm sure you will find this to be an incredible conversation. So buckle up and get ready for a fantastic ride over the course of the next 1 hour. But before we go ahead, I want to thank each and every one of you for providing all the support and love for the past episodes that we've brought you. It really means a lot to me and my team, who spend countless number of hours interviewing people, editing the podcast, and sharing it with each and every one of you here on YouTube and on Spotify. So if you've liked all the content that we've brought you so far, the good news is that we have a bunch of episodes and pieces of content that will educate you about the ecosystem at large coming up in the next few weeks and months. So please go ahead, support us, subscribe to the channel either on Spotify or here on YouTube, and join me for what will be an amazing ride understanding and uncovering the learnings that successful investors and founders have had over the course of their careers. So without further ado, now let's head in and listen to my conversation with Anshu Bansal.
Anshu, welcome to the Desi VC podcast.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Akash, for having me.
I was doing a little bit of research in terms of your story, and you obviously have a very fascinating background and how your journey in entrepreneurship started off here in the US. I'm curious to understand what is the origin story of Hyrecar, because I think that's where we'll be spending a lot of time today discussing the journey of how it began and how you took the company public.
Very good question. Let me tell a little bit more, a little bit about myself. So I started my career from H&R Block. That's where I met my co-founder Abi, who is part of the book as well that we recently published, and we were in software engineering. After that, I wanted to work for many different companies, which I did. Then after that, I joined Microsoft, did a lot of software development for them. Then after that, I joined Amazon, did lots of software development, management, many different things. I have also worked in VMware in B2B space. So that's been my journey. Hyrecar story started from Amazon days, and that's a very, very interesting story that I want to share. That we were, if you remember, Amazon Prime Music. So I was part of Amazon Prime Music team, and there was a big launch for us, all of us. And I was one of the quality lead back then, quality lead, software development, many different roles I played over there. And it was really, really late night release around 2 a.m. We ended up doing a 2 a.m. release. After that, my manager said, okay, go home, sleep. But I live in a little far from San Francisco on the East Bay. So my friend who was also with me, so he requested Uber. Uber was very, very small back then. So when I took the drive, I said, what is this, man? There are no cabs, or you just requested this? And then from there, he requested the Uber, and then I ride in. And back then, I found the driver who was driving me. He was complaining that, hey, I'm driving. This is 2 a.m. in the night, and I don't own this car. And the owner of the car is sleeping, and he has 14 of this kind of car. So I started asking, hey, why don't you buy it? And he shared his personal story that, hey, it's very hard. I don't have good credit score, so that's why I cannot qualify. I cannot be qualified for the loan. Plus, I don't have big down payment. That's why I'm renting this car. And that's the Hyrecar journey. But before that, when I landed in US, I was always interested into the entrepreneurship. So always started multiple ideas. In fact, before Hyrecar, Abi and I, during that, we were working on some ideas with some app, right? Some application which was getting popular. So I was always into the entrepreneurship. And I will share more details about the journey of Hyrecar, but just wanted to provide my background first.
No, that's fantastic. You talked about, taking that car ride, which kind of like changed your life in some sense. And you've written a book about that as well, a $40 Uber ride that transformed into a company that you eventually then took public. Talk to us a little bit more about what you uncovered beyond just understanding, that somebody was renting a car from somebody else who was sleeping. Yeah. Where does the whole idea for a company or a business model evolve when you're having that conversation with that Uber driver?
Sure. Yeah. So as I go back, a 2 a.m. ride, there was very touchy ride to me that, hey, here in US, we have a lot of different type of demographic, right? Demographic without good credit history, and without credit history, you cannot buy anything, right? The lot of down payment. So it's kind of like a lot of different kind of demographic dynamics. Yeah. So from coming up to that story, so I try to find more information from that driver, and I have sympathy with him, right? I shared that hey, he shared his personal story, and I want to thank you and appreciate all of his personal story that he shared. So what happened after that, I discussed this with my co-founder when we were working on some other idea. I said, sounds interesting problem. Why don't you become an Uber driver itself,
Yeah.
right? So I went to Uber office, Uber corporate office. They were next to Amazon office nearby. So I went there. They didn't let me in. They said, "Oh, this is not driver center. Driver center is somewhere in the Vermont state in San Francisco, some sketchy area." So I went there during daytime. There were a couple of touchy movement over there. So one was that, have you ever been to DMV? There's a long
have,
line,
yes.
right? Said, what is this, man? This is sketchy area. People are lining up and people are fighting. They are taking tokens and then getting called, hey, now this is your turn. It's a 1-2 hour wait. I said, wow, is this a startup? They must be minting money. So that's one of the turning point. That first was the driver. The second one, wow, this is like a mini DMV where I am. This is supposed to be a private company, small company, right? But then my turn came in, and I spoke to the customer service agent. He said, hey, I want to become an Uber driver. So he signed me up, and he asked me what kind of car you have. Back then I used to have 2-door car, which I had to sell to fund the company. There are pictures in the book. And then he asked me, hey, this car is not qualified. I said, can I rent the car? He said, no. That was also the second turning point that, hey, this guy is saying no, where the data is conflicting, which was the recent incident. So that's how the whole journey started. Then when I started...
What is the time frame for our listeners? Which year was this?
This was back in 2013 or 2014, somewhere around.
So the app experience for the driver was not as prevalent as it is right now, not as advanced. So there was not much interface or options for a lot of drivers to...
True. There was none. So even Uber was, I think it's still a couple of billions back then.
Right.
Yeah. I wish I would have known this problem like a couple of years before when I started this.
Yeah.
So going back to the customer service agent, and when I started arguing, he pointed out that, hey, in the back office, there are a couple of guys over there. They may help you, right? So I went there, and there were a couple of sketchy guys over there. They said, okay, there are two options that you have. Either you can sell your current car and collect the down payment and buy the new qualified car, which I didn't want to. That was my favorite car. I said, or you can drive my car. I said, yes, please let me know. How can I do? I said, okay, you can drive my car, but in the Uber earning portal, you have to put my bank account number so that I keep 40% of money and then you just get 60% of money. So that was the turning point, which we thought, okay, there may be some, looks like this has been operating into the gray market, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we can streamline and make a transparent model or some kind of platform.
And this person who was talking to you, the customer representative there, it's not like they had a platform. This was them just saying, I have a car, I want to give it to you, and I want to keep 40%. So it was very off the books side business. It wasn't something that was streamlined at that point of time.
That was not streamlined, yes. And then that was the turning point that, hey, this kind of thing is happening.
Yeah.
And here we are sitting like a DMV kind of environment where people are fighting for their, their number or their token, they're to be called out.
Yeah.
And looks like there must be good business, right? That was the turning point. Then we started.
And how did you validate this problem? Did you go out and speak to like more drivers and understand how they were renting their cars? Were they car owners themselves? And how does that look like in terms of a Pan-America opportunity?
So that is very, very interesting story I will talk about. And that's also the third point, how we started. So I came back and I spoke to my co-founder. We bounced back the idea that, hey, this was my impression of it. It's kind of DMV. So this is a good business, whoever has created this platform, Uber.
Yeah.
Then we thought, what do we do, right? So what we did, we took some domain name, which is Hyrecar. Somehow, we couldn't get HIRE, so we took HYRE, which worked out well for us.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty
anyway.
cool.
Yeah.
Now it's pretty cool, but back then we just took it. $30 domain name, and $30 I bought a theme, simple, and put together some images from Uber, blah, blah, blah. Created a subscribe-only list that, hey, subscribe here. And put together, hey, we'll provide this insurance, $1 million insurance, this car, and picked the images from Uber, Lyft, everywhere, copy-pasted it, and started tagging around in Twitter. Right? We thought, okay, maybe someone will register, someone will not register. Initially, we thought the driver will be the problem, acquiring driver. But we were surprised in the next couple of days, a lot of people signed up, around 200, 300 people signed up that they were interested in like this. When we evaluated the data, there were a couple of high rollers as well in that, right? So a couple of people from Uber signed up, couple of people. There used to be a company Sidecar as well. The CEO signed up. So, oh wow. Then at that point we thought, okay, there could be some business model over there. We still didn't start then.
You had not registered a company, nothing
There
at
was
this
nothing.
point of time.
There was nothing.
You're still
There was
validating
nothing.
the
Just
problem.
validating the idea. Half of them had grammatical mistake. Whatever sentence we could write in just 1 hour, and there was no chat GPT to validate back then.
Right.
So a lot of people commented, hey, they cannot even write the good grammar, so how would they create the company? But there was an interest, right? And then in next couple of days, because we copy pasted the images, we tagged people around, we got in few days, we got a legal letter from Uber that, hey, could you please take this down, right? There was not even an email address. It was just admin at Hyrecar or something, right? There was nothing. So he said, okay, wow, someone is having pain somewhere, so this must be something really good. So that's how we started, and we said, okay, Uber legal to the legal guy. Hey, we have nothing. Do whatever you like, right? Or maybe make us a partner. We are helping you out as well. At that point, they figured out, hey, these guys are just, they don't have anything, and they're just making things up. So they kind of ignored it, but we really got the legal letter as well. Yeah. So that was the turning point when we started with a real flush out idea. Yeah.
That is very interesting that you got a legal notice, but at the same time, they didn't take you seriously.
Yeah.
They just felt you were two people who were trying to build something that didn't really have a lot of potential
Yeah.
at that point of time. But did you have a conversation with anybody at Uber at that point of time?
Yeah. So we had a couple of conversations with them, a couple of conversation with Uber, onboarding center, driver center, and even their legal, right? So we exchanged multiple emails that say, hey, make us your registered partner. We are not taking business away from Uber. We are building more business to Uber because we are enabling the driver.
Right.
They said, nope, it's not allowed. I said, wow, now we will do it for sure, right? Whenever someone say no, right? They say, there is a data saying that so many people are interested.
Yeah.
And other side, of course, they are interested. Other side saying, hey, this is not allowed, something. And still they're spending their hours in sending us the legal letter. So we must have something. That's how the whole journey started.
That's amazing. That's a really incredible story in terms of how a company gets started out of something that you discovered on a ride back home.
Yeah.
Like not many times do you find, you often hear stories of people having a real problem, but then you discover this problem on a ride back home, which rarely is seen in the industry. So let's take the story forward from there and fast forward a little bit more. So you guys obviously then register a company, and now you're working on this platform that's allowing potential Uber drivers to rent a car for, it could be either for a day, it could be for a number of days, and then do a revenue share with the person who's the car owner.
Yeah.
How do you then go from there to fundraising? The first conversations with, the investors that you had, were you looking at the investors who maybe missed out on Uber, who were relevant investors who were in and around that car riding space or car share space to be your first set of backers? Or were you just going and selling this vision of, hey, we're going to build a platform that's going to drive an economy that's already moving away from traditional taxis towards an Uber model that, we obviously cannot live without Uber and Lyft today?
Yeah.
How did that early conversations play out? What was your positioning and narrative?
Sure. So on the first month itself, we did not build anything. We did not write a single code. The whole thing, we created a spreadsheet, Google spreadsheet, and put together. We were just kind of matchmaking. Okay,
wow.
You are the car owner, and we will match you. You pay us a fees, right?
Yeah.
So we went through this iteration model, and when we were
For how long?
For around a couple of months.
Okay.
And our first month revenue was $12,000, something around. So our, it's in the picture in the book as well. So then we thought, okay, there is some business, right? People are interested in something like that. Then we started creating the whole website and the whole platform model and stuff, right?
Was it still 40% commission that, like the person
No,
quoted you?
Then we changed it that, hey, owner, so as a car owner, we went through like Airbnb kind of model. As a car owner, you will upload it. You decide the rate of the car is, we kind of recommend, hey, put it in this market, $40 per day, $30, whatever the price is, right? Then we keep the 15% of that, the margin, and then you rent it out, right?
Right.
So when we created this first version of the website, or when we were selling or just on a spreadsheet, there were a couple of car owners registered, and they just, we were trending number one on the search. They registered on our website, they uploaded their vehicle, and they were also surprised that, the car is not coming back. It's continuously renting. So the difference between Turo, or that used to be Relay Ride back then, Turo, which is now, or the Get Around, this was that, hey, for Turo, Relay Ride, you just rent it for 1 day, 2 days. So there is a lot of exchange happening. But here, you set it up one time, and it's continuously making money. So we enable the small people, like very normal people, to create their own rental agencies. There are a couple of owners who bought 5 Prius, Toyota Prius, because that was the favorite vehicle because of the cost.
It's very economical.
Yeah, used Prius cost $10,000 to $12,000. It's making you $1,000 per month. So you say, okay, I'm gonna buy it, right? And it creates the business.
Yeah.
So that's how the whole thing started, and that was the first month revenue, and then a couple of we enable people in creating the small rental agencies. Yeah.
How does the conversation with the VCs play out? From the first round, when you talk to them, how do you sell this vision of, hey, I'm going to make this company huge and take it public? Obviously, taking a company public then versus taking a company public today is very different narrative.
Yeah.
But even then, you're building a company at that point of time with a market that was still playing out. Nobody really knew what the rideshare market could look like. So how does that story play out?
So we came from engineering background, so no background and all of the VC world and all. That's a very tricky. We filled out YC application. We got invited for interview. We got rejected in the interview, but they provided a lot of feedback, because our initial model was that, hey, once we do the matchmaking, we'll just charge one-time fees.
Right.
And then, after that, you deal with the driver. So then YC provided us the feedback that, hey, how it could become multi-billion-dollar, because there is no recurring revenue. So we refactored the whole platform so that there is a continuous exchange happening, right? A transaction or commerce is happening through the platform. But the long pole was insurance. So if I go back and connect why Hyrecar was successful, see, anybody can build the platform, right? It's super easy. You hire a couple of developers, you can build it. But the long pole was insurance. This kind of insurance did not exist in the world back then, which I solved it, right? I solved it. Somehow we figured it out without any money. Because we didn't have money, we didn't know, no background from rideshare, no background from insurance, but somehow we figured it out, right? Because insurance piece was very, very complex. Now, as a car owner, you own the insurance. Then when I call it for the ride, then Uber's insurance is kicking in. And now, when passenger is coming up, taking the ride, that Uber insurance, but passenger get down, then it's our insurance coming out. Then when your car is parked, then it's your car normal insurance.
Owner's insurance.
So it was very complex. Even to explain it, it was very hard. So what we did, we draw out a picture, infographic that, hey, let's say you are an insurance agent, we are asking for the insurance. It will take us 30 minutes just to explain what do we want. So we created a simple diagram that, hey, we need insurance from this period to this period, right? And this was the secret success. Even as of today, there are only 2-3 insurance companies which can provide this kind of insurance. So that was our secret sauce in this.
This is beautiful. The fact that you not only created a need for something very timely at that point of time for drivers, but then you looked at another opportunity that could be built on top of the business model that you went to market with, which is the insurance play. Yeah. One theme that I'm picking up here, Anshu, and you and I discussed this even before, is that you've actually entered domains where you had no right to be in. You didn't know anything about those sectors. You went into insurance. You went into somewhat ride sharing or marketplace. You're in security right now. How do you, as a founder, find the appetite to learn about new spaces? How does one just pick up? Because most people, what they do is, they enter a space, they say, I'm going to become an expert here, and they usually spend a lot of their time in that sector. You find very few people who are like, I do this, I do that, I'm going to do this as well. What is one thing that you have learned about yourself just discovering these new opportunities.
Yeah. So one thing I learned at Amazon was customer, right? Always, even as of today, you have some problem with Amazon order, you can email even the CEO, right? So customer obsession, this was the one thing I learned from Amazon. Second one was the data analytics, right? Data says everything is in data, right? So that's what drive me to figure out the problem, right? I'm a problem solver. I'm not a solution builder or something. So I took the problem that, hey, this is the current problem that customer is facing, right? Is there any way? If you don't find it, how can you solve as an engineer as a problem, right? Yes, you may not need to be from domain, right? If everything is not perfect in the world, right? So if you look around, even in this room, every company like this, put this camera, put this water, wherever the jar or the bottle, every company is a multi-billion-dollar company, right? Every table, whoever is making this, it's a pretty good size company. So problems are everywhere. Look at this paint. This could be multi-billion-dollar company. So ideas are everywhere. It's all about execution. I feel like from Amazon and Microsoft, I have become a good executor. Like I can execute it well given the problem. And as an engineering, we can analyze a lot of different things. Hey, what's the best way, optimized way to solve the problem? So it's like about problem solving, right? It's not about the space. The founder of Uber, Travis, he was a whiz kid, right? He was really, really good. I think he was the founder of Napster, where you can download all of the music, pirated music as well. And he was not from the space as well, but he solved the problem as well. Similarly, as long as you are solving the customer's pain point, it's providing the value. I really believe that you will figure it out. You will build a business.
It's always about customers. It's having
Customer.
that customer obsession,
Yeah.
about being problem centric, about wanting to essentially understand and uncover insights that can make somebody's life easy.
Somebody's life, yeah.
And I want to take you back to, you said Amazon and Microsoft. If there were one thing that you'd, respectively, from Microsoft and Amazon, that you can allude to and say, this is what Amazon gave me and this is what Microsoft gave me, what would that be that enabled you to become the founder that you were and the founder that you are today?
So both of these companies gave me, they are very, very complex organization, very complex code, very complex product, a lot of customers, right?
Yeah.
Given all of these problems, these complex problems, how do you solve current bug, right? How do you analyze? When you have a problem, what's the starting point, right? Because half of the time goes to figure out in the starting point. Once you figure out the starting point, then you can navigate it step by step. So analytic is analyzing some problem and finding the starting point and then navigating through that, to troubleshoot that step by step. That's what I learned from world's largest companies.
And is it also the fact that being in environments where, I've heard this from a lot of people, especially Amazon in the 2000s and to 2010s, it's just the amount of people who were there, who were always A-listers, who were punching above their weight, and being in environments like that kind of makes you as well somebody who's, you won't survive if you're not pulling your own weight.
Yeah.
But it's being in an environment that allows you to understand new things about yourself because you're pushing yourself to the max limit.
Yeah.
That enables you to become, in some sense, that ultra performer.
Yeah. No, that's totally true because at Amazon, Microsoft, they have a lot of churn, right?
Yeah.
Even when I was manager, no matter, I did not have hiring power in my decision because it is centralized person, which is Amazon-wide. They are just choosing one. And they will make the ultimate decision. That's called bar raiser, right? Similarly at Microsoft, there used to be, it's called as appropriate, as app. Yeah. So all of these companies, they turn so many candidates away. All they just don't want is anybody's false positive, right?
Yeah.
They're okay with false negative, right? And they reject so many candidates. So all of these companies, they select the really very, very qualified one, right?
Yeah.
And every quarter, you need to keep yourself up to date because if, let's say, as a manager at Amazon, I want to hire someone, the criteria is the new person we are bringing in, he or she should be more than 50% better of your team members. That means you are continuously pushing down, the performer who are not keeping up to date out of the door, right? And they don't, Amazon, Microsoft, they don't care, right? Cutting edge, right? It's very, very cutting edge. So that also I feel like that has contributed, all of the analytics, data analytics, how do you survive, how do you figure out the problem or the solution, that has enabled me as well. Yeah.
There's a reason I asked you that question because I want to draw parallels between how Amazon and Microsoft looked at hiring back when you were part of their teams to when you had to hire people for Hyrecar and today for cloud defense as well. I want to understand how does working in big tech
Yeah.
and being exposed to their traditional hiring processes impact and influence your hiring journey as a founder of an early stage company? Are there any things that you can take away? Because they always talk about processes with big tech being very bureaucratic, long, it takes long cycles, they interview a lot of people, but you don't have that luxury.
Yeah.
Neither do you have the cachet
Funds. Yeah.
sometimes and
Yeah.
funds to attract the talent that they're able to
Yeah.
do it. So let's try and understand whether there's things that you took away from those experiences and things that you're able to apply to your entrepreneurial journey and things that you learned independently
Yeah.
during hiring.
Yeah. So based on my two companies, one thing is clear: nobody will join you. Nobody very qualified, because everybody wants to work for big companies. So nobody, no like very qualified person will join you, right?
Right.
That's been my experience. First thing was in Hyrecar, we hired people. Everybody rejected us, right? Everybody rejected. Some of my friends, they laughed at my face. It's still, not now, but yeah, back then. So nobody will join you. So we had to get creative. We went to colleges, community college. No one from good college will join, right? Went to community college. We saw the talent, which were kind of, we at least 100, 200 people became multimillionaire from Hyrecar. Right? We went to gym where the guy was a little bit educated, but they were good communicator. They were, looking for desk job. We got in the restaurants, the waiters, right? We hired. Oh, you have to get creative, all of this, because back then that's the only one you can afford, right? You cannot pay high salaries. No, not very qualified person will join you. So we enabled. But the good thing was that, hey, they believed in you and they were passionate about. They want to learn new things, because I believe you can train a lot of people as long as the person is willing to learn. So that was our kind of hiring model, has been that worked out well for us during Hyrecar. Of course, cloud defense is a little bit different, but even in cloud defense, you cannot convince Amazon guy to come join you, right? Yeah. So we had to get creative, a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. We are going through that similar motion ourselves. I mean, I wish I could hire somebody from, a Splunk or a Wiz or any of these companies and say, come join us or, be part of our journey. But it's not. But you have to get creative with whatever you're able to at that point of time.
Yeah. I have one comment over there. Even if you end up hiring, see, everybody has aspiration. They want to become entrepreneur, right? When you're on the weekend drinking, you want to solve world hunger. You want to solve a lot of problems. But when Monday comes, they all worry about your job, family, this thing, right? Entrepreneur is about sacrifice, persistence, sacrifice. That's it. Stubborn. You need to have thick skin.
Yeah.
It's a very emotional journey. So on the weekend night, Friday night, after drinking, everybody wants to start company, right?
Yeah.
But how many people do, right? So even if you bring someone, let's say you stretch yourself, right? You say, okay, whatever money I have left, I will give it to this awesome Amazon guy.
Yeah.
They will not work for you. They will never work out for you. People who are asking high compensation, we get, people in India, 1 crore or $200,000, this thing, we never hire, because I know they will never work out for you, because they are used to certain things, right? If they are same person sitting at Amazon, they will be 10 times functional because they know Amazon will kick them out, right? They will not work for you. So always look for the fresh talent, right? Talent of good education background, or they are passionate about solving problems. They can learn, they can, quickly ramp up. They will work for you.
I agree. Optimizing for the learning curve and just being good to be in that 0 to 1 phase, because I think it takes a really different mindset, not just on the founder side, but also on the employee side. When you're building that initial set of like employees out, you want people to be extremely adaptable.
Yeah.
You don't want people to be rigid. You don't want people to come and be like, hey, I used to do this before. I'm like, no, great. But that's not how things are done
Because
today.
here you even don't know what the problem you're solving on the day one, right? You
Exactly.
don't know the problem. You don't know the customer. Customer is telling something,
Yeah.
and then you are just following it, following the guideline. You don't know this thing will work for 100 customers or just one customer, right?
Yeah.
You don't know nothing back then. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that front. You've talked about resilience, and that's a word that's come up at least 3 or 4 times over the course of, this interview. And I want to take you back to, just your background in your life. You said you've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and that was something that's been percolating in your mind for the longest period of time, even when you came to the US. Were you exposed to any sort of like entrepreneurship in the growing up years, or were there influences in your family that kind of gave you some conviction that, even I can do this? And the word resilience there is playing a huge role, because I feel, you just don't become resilient like overnight. You probably have had to like struggle in some way in your life to develop that thick skin. So I want to understand from your perspective, what enabled you to become resilient, and what was your exposure to entrepreneurship, or was there even any exposure in the growing up years?
Yeah. So I came from very humble background, from village, right? So no one even can imagine in the wild dreams that this is something like could even possible, right? So on this, my belief is what has influenced. I was not part of entrepreneurship. I even didn't know how to write entrepreneurship spelling the full. Even I will make mistake right now. Yeah. So the whole part was always learning, right? You give me the problem, I will try to figure out. Hey, maybe we can build something, right? Always wanted to do something of my own, and the way it has influence in my life is I have read a lot of document, lot of biographies, lot of readings, lot of Wikipedia, a lot of these documentary movies, right? Everybody, all founders, I said, wow, this is amazing, right? And the only thing which comes to my mind is that, hey, if this guy has solved it, maybe, what is preventing me? It's a free world, free country, right? Anybody can do whatever they like. Right? So that's the thing. Hey, if this guy has done it, maybe, yeah, I can also do it, right? That has been my philosophy that, hey, this guy eats almost the same food, breathe the same air, same water. So maybe, we can also solve the problem. Yeah, that's how I think. Yeah.
You come across as somebody who's extremely confident. And, you talk about humble beginnings and coming from a humble background, but building that confidence and resilience over the years takes a lot of either conscious work on it, or as a result of your circumstances, you automatically become that.
Okay.
So are you a product of both, or are you a product of either one of them, where, your circumstances kind of made you tougher and stronger and made you confident, or did you have to like also consciously work on it in some sense?
A lot of struggle, lot of situation, right? So a lot of situation in the past has happened, which has made me tougher as a rock, right? That's how I would say.
Yeah.
I don't feel nothing right now, whatever is happening, right? So
One or two
poker
things that you
face.
can point out and say
Those
before
yeah.
building your companies.
Yeah, those has been a lot of personal things as well, on the personal front. But those have made me tougher and tougher day by day.
Yeah.
So that kind of is impacted because, when you don't have any option, right? So then you will build something. That's what
Yeah.
I believe in. Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because there's a correlation between people who have a lot of personal struggles themselves and people who become entrepreneurs. There was a study that's conducted by Harvard, I think it was in 2014, where they studied a group of 250 founders, not just tech, but just business owners from across the Bay Area. And they realized that about 83% of them had some sort of personal tragedy, trauma, circumstances in their lives that influenced their upbringing in a very, very significant manner. And there was a correlation in that study over the course of that, I think it was a 22 or 23 page paper, where they talk about the formative years being very important in how an entrepreneur turns out as well. You don't really think of it as much, and we don't really obviously talk about it, because once somebody becomes successful and they have all the fame in the world, or they have meaningful money that's in the bank, or everything that is given a lot of focus on is the journey, but nobody really talks about the pre-journey. The pre-journey is like so important.
Yeah.
And the reason I brought that up is because today you find a lot of entrepreneurs looking at the story from the outside. And it's great to get inspiration and saying, I will do it. I also want to do it. But when you actually start doing it, you realize that the journey is so much more harder.
Yeah.
And a lot of people give up. I think, and I could be wrong here, fundamentally, a lot of companies fail not because you run out of ideas or money, you run out of mental energy. Because when the going gets hard, they say that people tend to like move away because there's a threshold, there's a break point that everybody has. You have a break point, I have a break point. It varies for the two of us, but it's how much can you push that break point into what limit is when you really understand what kind of an entrepreneur you are and what kind of founding team you are, because it's not just you. Your co-founder and you need to have a very similar break point. You can't be like, hey, I'm going to have 100 and your co-founder's at 70. One of them is going to walk away and it becomes incrementally harder for you at that point of time, or exponentially harder to go out and do it all on your own. Bringing back to that whole concept into the question that I want to ask you right now is the dynamic with your co-founder. You said you worked with him before. You already built a company with him. You've written a book with him. What is one thing or one or two things in your experience that most people need to keep in mind as they're thinking about their co-founder, and what kind of dynamics, what gave you conviction that this is the person that I want to be spending and building my company with?
So my philosophy in this is, in the world, there are only few solo founders who have been successful. They say they were solo, but they were not solo. For example, Amazon, Jeff Bezos, right? His wife was kind of co-founder, right? Not the official one, but it's kind of. So there are only few companies in the world with a solo founder are successful.
Right.
So I believe the co-founder is the really, really necessary and good to have. Startup, it's my belief, startup is an emotional journey. You are a founder, so you can relate to it, right? One day it's up, second hour it's down, right? Morning it's up, afternoon you say we are done, right? No hope, right? So it's a very, very emotional kind of, journey, right? It keeps moving up, wave is kind of moving up and down. So you need to have a co-founder. So co-founder cannot be anyone you pick up from the street, right? You need to have a lot of good working history, right? Because building a startup is tough. People cannot work even in a single company, and you're talking about here, over 20 years journey of building second company, which is also doing great, right? So you need to have the similar kind of mentality, who are passionate. You can find 100 passionate people, right? On the weekend night, everybody is passionate. You can, while drinking, right? Everybody wants to start a company. But resilience, right? Persistent, stubborn, because this gonna be hard. Startup is not gonna be easy, right? No matter, where you are. So picking up the co-founder is a very, very challenging thing. And that's a half of the battle, right? I was fortunate. It was our first job when we met, and we had the similar synergy. So we had a lot of background. We understand each other. So it's kind of the way I relate is like in the team there are, or let's say the analogy I give is in the car, right? In the car there are 4 or 5 gears. So you need to have all 4 gears to make the car functional, right? First one will pick up. You need a guy who can just, build from anything, right? Like in this example, like idea, right? Uber. And after that, you need execution as well. Second, third gear, right? And the top gear as well, which will take it to the conclusion. So that's how I related to the co-founder. In my case, I'm the first and fifth gear, right? But what about the middle one, right? That's also necessary. So my co-founder is like that, right? So that completes the whole journey.
I love that, because that dynamic is so important. And more often than not, as we were discussing, teams fall out because they don't align on similar vision, they don't align on expectations, they don't align on the journey itself. Because if I come in thinking I have 1 year worth of runway, both financially, mentally, emotionally to invest, and somebody else comes in with 2 years, it's not a good match at all. So it's good to know that you've had that working relationship and you kind of know that person a lot more from a personal level as well. Because I think it's very important to know a founder on a personal level as opposed to just a professional level. Because you might be very competent, which is great. A lot of people are competent, but do you have that emotional runway?
Yeah.
Can you put up with 9 a.m. being a super high and 12 p.m. being a super low
Yeah.
and 3 p.m. being the worst day of your life?
Yeah.
Can you go through that and then show up next day saying, let's hit the ground running from day one?
Yeah. Maybe it will work.
Maybe it will work.
Yeah.
Because it's not just the two of you, right? It's the company that you build around you. Because I think it's very similar to like how you run a family, in my opinion.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The parents set the tone for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
It's like monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah,
Like if you are constantly just not upbeat and you're like low and your energy is low and you're kind of like very pessimistic or you don't have your employees kind of like pick up on that.
Yeah.
Similar to how your kids pick up on your energy, your behavior, the stuff that you say, you talk, they mirror you in some sense. And I think that's how I look at building early stage companies as well. Is it's very important for you to like come in and have a persona.
Yeah.
You can take back to your personal lives, and when you get together as founders, you can be emotionally more vulnerable. But it's very important to have like a persona with not just investors and customers, but also with your employees.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. It's like, it's a different journey, never seen like this. It's kind of emotional roller coaster where you are up against everything. You don't have money.
Yeah.
You even don't know what you're doing. Nobody knows the idea, right? Nobody knows what works, what doesn't work, right? On day one, unless you are the customer who is always, asking something. You have employees churning or coming and going, or you cannot even hire good employees, right?
Yeah.
So it's a totally different ball game. But the only positive side is one, it's work. It works for a lot of stuff, a lot of problem it solves, right? Money is not everything, but it helps. It solves a lot of problems.
Definitely.
And the another example I give, so many people have solved in front of us, right? Just if you are really sad, emotionally down, take a walk San Francisco, right? Go to Silicon Valley, South Bay. Take all companies and read just in their Wikipedia how they were, right? They were almost about to close many times.
Yeah.
Even Hyrecar was closed almost 2-3 times, and he said they're done.
Yeah.
But again, you start with something. Yeah.
I love that. I think that's a great advice when founders are feeling that nothing's working for them. Just take a look at all the companies around you.
Yeah.
Like Silicon Valley is such a great example of companies that were nearly killed, but today are like household names and stories that we always talk about from a very iconic perspective.
Yeah.
And, you talked about, your company almost shutting down a couple of times. How do you go from a company that was almost shutting down to then taking the company public? Like when does Hyrecar go through that hyperscale? And when does that first thought come into your head that, hey, you know what? Going public is actually an option for us.
Yeah. So Hyrecar journey was a little bit, roller coaster. All companies have, right? Even we had. So when you figure out nothing, right? When you don't have any money in the bank left, when you cannot afford anything other than your co-founder, right? Even you're begging for money, then what do you do? Like no revenue is coming in. There is no option. You don't want to close down something which you created, right, from your heart, right? It's like having a baby, right?
Yeah.
It's startup is like baby, your baby, right? You cannot close down your baby, or you cannot, So you just figure out what's the next, right? Now I don't have any option. Then maybe you tweak the model, you go talk to customer, you figure out what else we can do in this situation. Bring the fund, or somehow you start, or bring another outside help from somewhere with some capacity. Of course, you have to make sacrifices.
Yeah.
That's how you can start. That's how we restarted multiple times, and eventually, when we were almost kind of finished, we didn't have someone sued us. Our car was sold. My car was sold. Favorite car. Abhi had to sell his bike. Our credit card was full. Somehow, we brought external help, little help. So every little step at that count, right? Now you might think, okay, a few thousand here and there doesn't make a dent, right? But few thousand back then in that context would have made a lot of difference, right? So that's how you get creative. You bring more and more help, right? You try to convince people. That's how happened to us. And when the right team member join, right people join, it start taking a shape. From us, the problem was that, hey, there was always demand, right? There was always demand. And there was always revenue coming in. But, You need to, how do you scale up? Yeah.
That's very interesting. And when does the company, go through that
Yeah.
big inflection where you're like on that rocket ship growth, and now you're thinking that, okay, I would want to give an exit in some sense to my existing investors, myself. When did that whole conversation about we can even go public enter your head?
So what happened when we started? Of course, Silicon Valley, right? So we went to see all VCs.
Right.
Nobody funded, right? Said, oh, Uber can start, Lyft can start. Said, okay, this way Microsoft can start everything. They have 300,000 engineer, best engineer in the world, right? So no one will start anything this way. So nobody funded, right? Somehow we figured it out that we brought the funding from Saudi Arabia. There was Sheikh, right, who believed
Yeah.
in us, really good friend. Yeah, he considered me as a younger brother now because he made a lot of money. So somehow we got connected with him. It took us 1 year to convince him, but he invested first $1 million from that, right? But again, $1 million, living in California, fund trying to build the company is nothing, right?
Yeah.
Here, $1 million salary people make now.
True.
Yeah. So again, after that we went to see a lot of VCs. Nobody funded, right? They did not believe into this. I said, okay. Then right now SPAC is very, very popular, but I believe we were aware about this reversal, all of these kind of arrangement back in there, right?
Right.
So we brought some help from external. He succeeded the all CEO, CFO role now, or back then. And then he has some background. So we got creative and nobody funded. This is kind of accidental. We had couple of options, either go anal with the VC route, you just start asking and, go see more VCs, or get creative and try to figure out your own path, right, with the IPO journey. So I made a decision, me and my co-founder, that let's explore the IPO market. And that worked out very well for us because it's still not paper valuation. It's as good as it goes, right? You can
Yeah.
see the value every day. You can sell it. You can
Yeah.
Eat. You can eat the food,
Yeah.
not the paper valuation.
And you also mentioned that you gave a lot of your employees a great exit, a great outcome. Was that also one of the things that you considered when you were thinking? Because a lot of things go into taking a company public. You obviously want to give your existing investors an out. You perhaps want an out. You're thinking about where's that influx of money that's coming in, where can it take the business in terms of the next level. But you're also thinking about the outcome that you can give the early believers and all of that. What were a few things that were top of mind for you as you were thinking about taking the company public?
Yeah. So we thought a couple of things. First of all, when you are very beginning stage, nobody believes in equity. Everybody needs hard cash.
Sure.
That's a bitter truth,
I
right?
agree.
Everybody. Yeah. But after that, once it start taking shape, everybody wants more and more stock, right? So that's how the early employees, because we offered so much of equity and somehow, and this was the best option. Hyrecar was the best option back then, right? Rather than serving the plates or waiting the tables, or showing gym or training the guys in the gym. This was the best option for them for office job. And when we were thinking, we thought, okay, this if we take the company public, even though it's a small IPO, but at least it enables everyone to cash out rather than holding it for 10, 15, God knows for how many years, just holding the paper valuation, because life keeps changing. Situation you are in today, the situation will be tomorrow, different situation tomorrow, or it was before, it was different yesterday. So life keeps evolving. So how do you optimize, again, the problem solving? How do you optimize and give a confidence to your employees, to your early backers, to investors, and to your own family and yourself as well?
I love that. I love how you thought about a number of things in terms of outcomes, and not just for what it meant for your company, but what it meant for people involved and engaged with it. You mentioned one thing when you were talking about how difficult it was for you to raise money, and a lot of people challenged you saying, why can't Uber do this? Why can't Lyft do this? You then went on from there and started your own VC fund where you invested in founders. Was the primary driving reason behind that the fact that you were unable to raise or struggled to raise initially, where you felt, hey, I wish, if there are founders who are working on very interesting problems, who are like me, who went through a journey like me, I want to be the person, they can look up to, and I can fund them, especially, of course, with economics and everything working out. But let's not get into that bit. But what was the primary motivation? I'm hoping it was something around those lines.
Yeah. So some of the after our exit in Hyrecar, we set it up a very small office, me and my co-founder again. And we invested into the idea where we believe in. So we just have a couple of themes only, like cloud, SaaS business, it solves a great problem which no one has solved about.
Yeah.
But this was the stuff that, yes, if we want to be early backer, right? We may not be right on all the time, but somehow out of these, if even one or two things works, that will be really great. So far, I think we have invested around 55 plus companies, and some of them are doing really, really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got some really good portfolio companies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even I was invested in Reddit.
Yeah.
Now it's doing really great.
Yeah.
And Reddit, it took them around 17, 18 years, right, to go and provide some meaningful exit to them.
Yeah, and they went through like a very interesting journey internally with leadership changes.
So
and,
many, yeah.
And the ups and downs that they had in terms of where they are today. I love the fact that, your journey into entrepreneurship kind of led you to becoming an investor, which has kind of become almost like a traditional path for a lot of founders who have gotten an exit. They want to go back and give back in some sense and support an ecosystem that eventually has given them so much of, goodwill and karma and everything associated with that. And I'm guessing again, but I would love for you to like share with us, where does the idea for Cloud Defense come in?
Yeah, so Cloud Defense idea at Amazon, at Microsoft, I was in development. And before the release, security team will come in and say, solve this problem, right? And then it's, oh my God, what is this? And how do I start it, right? Then at Amazon as well, I became a security certifier. So security certifier is a kind of big role or brag, you can brag about, you get a good t-shirt with the security certifier. Only few security certifier in thousands, right?
Yeah.
Amazon has hundreds of thousands employees, but without security certifier, you cannot release the application. And average time to certify an application is around 8 months. So as a dev manager, you're trying to release something, you cannot release if I certify it, right? And I cannot be related to your org, so that you cannot influence me, right? It has to be a different org. So a lot of good flushed out learnings that I had during Amazon days. Mm-hmm. And if I log in any security risk into your platform, against your application, you have to resolve it, right? Otherwise, because then there is a central security team chasing around. So that's really, really good process. At VMware, there was not any formal process as well. So I was put into some of these kind of situation at VMware as well, where, during the last day, I was a senior dev manager. Last day, security team came in, dump in all of the 1,000 vulnerabilities, and solve it.
Yeah.
So there is no solve. And the VP of engineering coming in and yelling, what's going on? You cannot ask for security exception as well, right? Of course, you need to write a lot of documents. So that's how when the idea came in. What Cloud Defense is right now, that was not the idea. It was very, very stupid, very naive idea, which we even didn't know. Again, it goes back to the same problem. We are not from security industry. We didn't know what we were solving. Yeah. So we thought the only correlation was that, hey, Amazon has very good vulnerability management or the exception approval process, security program, but other companies don't have. So why don't we build something like which was internally to Amazon as well, right? So we started, again, on the paper, we started asking a lot of CISOs, a lot of security people, a lot of people, and they said, yeah, this could be a good idea. So what we created simple slide that, hey, we are creating Jira for security. We didn't know what we were doing, right? Yeah. But because this was a second company, fundraising was a little bit easier. Fund came in, and we started this journey. But what Cloud Defense has become now, one of the best CNAP platform, came again back from customers, right? So after starting Cloud Defense, in 3 months, we got one customer, US-based customer, right? So we thought, okay, and there was nothing, we didn't have anything, just a very simple CLI tool. But customer became the design partner and helped us, and that's how we scaled it. Now, you go to Google and search few CNAP, few terms related to our company, we are on the top one. Google, Bing, everywhere, right? We're getting a lot of incoming leads. But again, it goes back to the same thing. Customer first. Customer will provide you the meaningful information.
I love that. I love the fact that you have harped so much upon being very customer obsessed. I think that's a great starting point for like all founders in terms of trying to like figure out what do I want to build. I think it's really being passionate about one problem because, in my opinion, if you work with a good set of customers who have a pain point that you have identified, they will uncover 10 new pain points for you after that. But it's about executing really well with that one problem that you've identified and then building that relationship with them. I think the best companies have been built by knowing, like, great example again is Atlassian, right? They have built a company around taking one product to the market and then finding 4 or 5 other products around the same customer base, which is people working in dev tooling or people who are like engineers. And they've really uncovered different insights. But it's for you to find that one core problem that you want to like identify and then double down and nail really well.
Because on day one, you are coming out of the blue, thinking of an idea. You don't know what you are doing, right?
Yeah.
You are very, very honest, right?
Yeah.
Because whatever you think you are building, it may not be applicable for the real world, right?
True.
So just, I think, if you can talk to your customer, if you can find out, if you can identify the pain point and write down the survey or write down then something you will figure it out, right? That's how we've been,
Yeah. You know, I've had a fascinating conversation with you over the course of the last, hour or so. I want to leave you with 2 questions before we wrap up. Sure. Firstly, you've spent so much time in big tech, built your own companies, been an investor. What is that one thing that you have learned about yourself in this journey?
In this journey, what I had thought, you give me the problem, I will solve it. I'll figure out the solution.
Yeah.
I may not know the answer right now, but at least I will figure out or try to figure out solve the problem, which I am good at. At least that's what I have figured out about myself. That hey, given any environment, any odd situation, anything, I will figure out some possible way. Yeah.
That's amazing.
It may not be the optimized way, but at least it will be the starting point.
That's great. And a very similar question as well. And I typically ask this to all the guests who've been on the show. If you were to look back at your journey and Anshu today is giving advice to a younger Anshu who's just starting out on his path in his career, what is that one piece of advice that you would give him?
Yeah, so I would say there are 2 types of people in the world, right? One is just regular, what have been told in the books, what have been trained by parents and stuff, right? That live a set life, the whatever it's a 6th thing, right? That get a car, get a good job, get a family, buy a house, blah blah blah, right?
Yeah.
All of these, right? That's a good, and go to vacation, right? That's also good life, right?
Yeah.
But is this why you were born, right? That was your dream that someday you will acquire 17, 18 years of education, get a good job, and earn good money, and have a good car, all of the good life. Is it the end, right? Is it what you really want to do when you really grow old? Or you want to solve the problem that, which will give you the, which will keep you up in the night, right? So you just get one life, right? If you want to get set, a lot of people, not a bad thing, right? A lot of people go into the government services, right? Pay is not good, but the retirement is good. So it's a choice, right? If I were to make choice and if I were to give some advice to younger Anshu or someone, that I would say, just follow the passion, man. You just get one life. Just try to create an impact, right? I created this book based on my journey with the real picture. At least I live or I die, doesn't matter, but this will stay. This story, nobody can take away. All of the, SEC website has all of the information about this whole thing.
Yeah.
No one can take away this, right? At least leave something to the world, leave some legacy, right?
Yeah.
We impacted millions of drivers. There are documented stories published on CNN, Washington Post, everywhere that, hey, this was like, we help homeless people, we help veterans, we help students, everybody. So do you want to be, someone who can be remembered by millions of people, or do you want to just, have a set life? So that's a choice you have to make. Only 1% people can make that choice. 99% are just, just follow the herd. Yeah.
Well, Anshu, you've truly inspired me today. We talk about having dips as founders and having a day where it starts off well, and perhaps I'm ending my week on such a high note by having this conversation with you. I leave inspired. You've had such a brilliant, beautiful journey. And I hope, I wish many founders who listen to this have a very similar journey, are inspired, and take away all the learnings that you've shared with us over the course of your time building two beautiful companies, and all the other things that you've learned along as a founder, as an investor, and as just somebody who's so passionate about solving core problems that the customer is tackling. So thank you so much for your time, and I really, really wish great success with Cloud Defense, and hopefully we'll bring you back on a few years from now where you can share more stories about the successes that you've had and the learnings that you've had with Cloud Defense as well.
No, thank you, Akash, for having me. And hopefully this was useful.
Of
And
course.
if anything I can do to guide or help, I'm really, really always available. We'll be really happy. We don't need nothing in return. We believe in giving away. Someone impacted me, along with my journey. A lot of people may have impacted me. So this is my time to just share my story, or at least my knowledge, whatever it could be worth of. Yeah.
No, I mean, you've already started to show a glimpse of that. And for all the listeners, Anshu drove at least an hour, from East Bay, if not more, given the traffic and everything, to come and do this podcast here today. So I know that you mean that from the bottom of your heart. And the fact that, we connected on a WhatsApp group and you're here today doing this episode is a true testament to the fact that you are truly giving back to the ecosystem. So again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for being here. Grateful, and I hope to, build on this friendship that we've started today.
Definitely. Thank you, Akash, for having me. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you.